Welcome back to the 127 Fit podcast. Today's guest is the CEO of Driven Personal Training. He's also a weight loss transformation specialist, sponsored athlete, author, TV health host, and fitness model. Today's guest is Alex Carneiro. Alex, I want to welcome you to the 127 Fit podcast.
I can't thank you enough for having me here today.
Awesome, man. So, Alex, we are going to jump right into things. And the first question that I have for you is kind of part of the warm-up, the conversational warm-up is, do you have like a specific morning routine or morning ritual that you like to stick to on most mornings?
I have a path. Every day is different for me. You know, as owning my multiple businesses, every day is going to change. Mm-hmm. I do have things that I adapt to every single day that I have to do in order to start my day. First one is I gotta make sure I'm meditating for 5 to 8 minutes. And now when people think meditation, they think, you know, you're crossing your arms or you're doing a little hand gesture and you're closing your eyes and humming. But in reality, what meditation means to me is clarifying my ideals for the day. Mm-hmm. What do I want to accomplish for my day? Mm-hmm. Perhaps, you know, what do I want to accomplish in the next few hours of that morning? Basically is to clear up my mindset so that I have the best possible day. You know, and make sure that if anything does go wrong, I'm prepared for it, because that's what life is things happen unexpectedly, and, you know, we got to make sure that we respond to it. Secondly, I always make sure that, you know, I get about 20 to 24 ounces of water. That's more of a health aspect. You know, you have been sleeping. We do lose a lot of water when we're sleeping. The brain needs to, you know, rehydrate itself. The muscles need to rehydrate itself. I usually put a scoop of, you know, one of my favorite products here, so I make sure that I get a little caffeine. After that, I jump either on my Peloton bike and do about 30 minutes of HIIT, or I go to yoga, hot yoga, and, you know, make sure I get some sort of physical activity.
Awesome.
Those are my three main to-go-to activities in the morning. Obviously, you know, take out my dogs, make sure that my fiance is happy, you know, happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, right, there you go, yep.
And make sure that, you know, I'm ready for the day without any stress. Now, one thing that I'm really encourage people to do is make sure you wake up early enough to get everything done. I think way too many people start their day too stressed, you know, they're trying to drive to work as fast as possible. They didn't get a good breakfast. I think if you start your day relaxed, the rest of the day will be tremendously different, instead of this image of breakfast, you know, grabbing the toast, grabbing the coffee, and heading off to work. You know, starting with a quiet mindset is essential for a phenomenal day.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that. So just to kind of quick review the three things that are kind of like must for you every morning is meditation, water, and then movement. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
yes.
Awesome. Very good. Okay, so the next question I have for you, Alex, do you have a favorite book or book that you like to gift often? And then after you kind of get done sharing that, you are an author. You've written your own book, so please go ahead and share with myself and the listeners the name of your book, and maybe if you want to talk a little bit about that as well.
So, no doubt, the book that's impacted me the most is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Yep.
That's a phenomenal book about the mindset. You know, I think the mindset is the most important thing in this lifestyle that we live called life. And he just goes in so much detail about the power of the mind and what we can achieve. Everyone's different. I understand, you know, we take these supernatural human beings and, you know, put them in books, and, you know, they make us think that we have hope, which is what I like. You know, I like believing that, you know, we can all change our mindsets and transform the person we are today into the better version that we can be tomorrow. And that's what my book is about. My book is Fitting in the Mask of Health. Originally, the book was going to be called Fitting in the American Dream because I'm not from the U.S. So I thought, you know, I'm going to share my story as, you know, Arnold and Sylvester and Jean-Claude Van Damme. You know, people actors that made a huge impact in my life growing up, because they're foreigners just like me, and they got into the fitness industry.
Right.
But after, you know, thinking about it, I said, you know what, this book needs to be helping everyone, not just foreigners or people who feel like they're alienated by, you know, not being a citizen of the U.S. So we changed it to Fitting in the Mask of Health, because for so many years I was involved in an industry where, you know, everyone would pretend to be healthy. You know, I would be in covers saying, you know, get the perfect six-pack and feel great. And after so many years of, you know, being a hypocrite to my own, you know, image, pretending that I was healthy to sell magazines, to sell ads, I realized I can't do this to myself. I can't do this to anyone else. So the book's premises is my story, you know, getting into the U.S., what made me get into health and fitness, and how that deviated over the years with this perception that getting the perfect body would improve the quality of life. Get me the girls, get me the money, get me the cars, get me the house. The perception that Hollywood gives, that if you have the perfect body, you're going to be able to achieve everything.
Right.
I realized, the perfect body came with a lot of side effects, and so I decided to write this story and this journey because it wasn't just mine. I've worked with several people who were extremely overweight, lost all that weight, and thought that their lives were going to change because of that external change. When I started realizing the change needs to start from the internal aspect, the internal proponent of us, and then, we can actually get what we want out of life and be happier.
Cool. And I'm really excited to dig into your story. That's kind of the impetus behind my podcast, is for people to share their story to positively impact those who listen. So, but before we kind of dive into your story in terms of what your book's all about, the next question that I have for you, Alex, is there a favorite quote, mantra, or maybe there's like a specific word, maybe it's right now in this season of life or a past season of life, that has been really impactful for you? So favorite quote, mantra, or word at some point in your life that has been very impactful and been a positive influence in your life.
There are so many quotes. There's so many people. You can mention Buddha. You can mention any way you want. Reality is, over the years, and you said it yourself the best, we change through life and we change the way we see life, and so these quotes can affect us very differently in different phases of our life. There are quotes that have affected me differently, but at the end of the day, I tell people, don't seek motivation or inspiration from anyone else but yourself. So very common question I get, who motivated you to get into fitness? I have a few people I can name, but those weren't the names of the people who kept me motivated through the hard times. Those were the people who motivated me at the beginning of that journey. The only name that really pops in my head is Greg Plitt. God bless his soul. I had the chance of meeting him several times, talking to him several times, and he was just a very, very, very well enlightened person who, didn't have an ego, was very humble, and was just always willing to help. And that's the only person that really comes into my mindset when it comes to motivation. He had phenomenal quotes. I always encourage people, look, it's yourself that you need to seek inspiration and motivation from.
That.
Not any other quotes, because quotes don't last too long in contemporary living. Looking at yourself does. So, inspire yourself, create your own quotes, be who you have to be in order to be the person that you want to be one day. And, don't get so influenced by what others are saying or what others are doing. Be yourself and live your own life to be your own inspiration every day.
Beautiful, man. Now, I want you to share a little bit more about Greg Plitt, if you don't mind, because I know that's a guy that was on hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of magazine covers, and he was, we're both the same age. We kind of were talking before he turned on the mic, so he's one of those guys, that was in all the magazines and had the six pack and all that, and unfortunately there was a tragic death. It's just crazy, but. What was it about him? First of all, was he somebody that maybe you saw in the magazines first and you're just like, man, like that guy, I'd love to look like that guy? And then was it you got to meet him and he was just maybe a little bit different than you thought? What was it that you really appreciate about Greg after you met him?
So the first thing is, like you mentioned yourself, we were not born in the era of social media. We were born in the era of actual editorial print.
Right.
There was not much digital, So actually, a story that a lot of people don't know is that I learned most of my English and perfected my English with magazines, because my eighth grade teacher had told my parents that if my English didn't get any better, that she couldn't see a future of me coming here into the U.S. I wish I could shove the book down her throat.
Yeah. Say, here you go. Here's my book.
I published my book. Anyway.
Yeah.
So my dad got me Time magazine. This was when Arnold was going for governor.
Okay.
And I told my father, look, just because Arnold's running for governor, Time magazine does not interest me in any means.
Right.
So he's like, what does interest you? I said, okay, well, give me some sports magazines. So he worked in the United Nations, and so he had friends here from the U.S., which, he asked a few favors, brought the magazines for me. I started reading more and more English, and one of the magazines was obviously Muscle Fitness. Greg wasn't in Muscle Fitness, but that itself did inspire me to get into fitness. And when I got into fitness, I started looking and researching a little bit more on Google. Now, if anyone remembers Google back in the day, you didn't have by any means all the functions we have today of images and videos.
Right.
But Greg was one of the first fitness models to ever capitalize on that membership subscription model. I cannot think of anyone else actually who had that subscription model, the $9.99 or $14.99 before Greg did. The thing that fascinated me about Greg was his all over around life. So he didn't just lift, he biked, he hiked, he swam, he shot, played golf, he surfed, but he was also this all-American guy, who's been in commercials, who's been on TV, he's done everything.
Right.
Skydived, So I was like, that's what I want to be. And when I had the great chance of coming into the U.S. and meeting him for the first time, he didn't disappoint. The beauty of being a sponsored athlete is that you get to go into the expos before the shows actually open, so you don't have to wait for hours to meet. So there was Greg literally in front of my booth, my sponsor's booth, and I went up to him and I said, dude, you're an amazing inspiration. And, he didn't just say, thank you, my man, let's take a picture. He actually got into depth as to what got me into fitness. We started talking, we took pictures later.
Awesome.
But it was a great opportunity to meet someone who had inspired me to, be better at everything. Greg had this light around him, this energy of how he spoke to people that I yet to see in anyone. You could feel the energy. You could feel, how he wanted to impact the world.
Right.
And, the big difference about Greg versus what I see a lot today is that he didn't come across as the capitalization of the fitness industry. He didn't seem like he was doing this for the money. He truly had a passion for what he did, and that makes a whole different difference in the type of energy when you're talking to these people. I haven't yet met anyone that I can feel that kind of energy. I understand everyone's energy is unique on its own, but once he passed away, I was very disappointed that he just wasn't here with us to continue that amount of knowledge that he had spread. I had the pleasure of meeting a lot of his best friends. I had the pleasure of meeting some of his family members. I even had the pleasure of meeting his website designer, and they all contributed with saying, "Yeah, Greg was that person."
Yeah,
and it's just unbelievable. Like the type of enlightenment, you could just feel it through just talking to him.
Yeah, and for you, Alex, and just your fitness journey, I'm sure there's some motivation, like maybe in your heart to not model your life after him, but to be a man where when you're gone, that legacy is, man, like people would say, like, Alex was an awesome guy. He was more than a trainer. He's more than like a fitness model and all that. He was a genuine guy, a great guy. He cared about the people that he was training and coaching. I mean, that has to be a little bit of motivation in your heart, to have a legacy like Greg's. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Greg is one of those people you can still look up on YouTube. So many fans have created hundreds of videos
for sure
for his legacy. If I could have a fraction of what he's done to impact so many people, that'd be amazing. The sense of mortality is still very, very scary to me. The fact that we don't realize that we're just a biological body suspended in a planet that's suspended by what we think is dark matter.
Right, yeah.
People don't realize, how insignificant one can be and how impactful at the same time that person can be. And so, leaving a legacy is not yet one of my priorities in life because I'm still trying to live on the now.
Yeah, we're still young, right, man?
We're still young. We're so young, but again, like that concept of not being in this life. I used to be an extremely religious person. Things have changed in my life. I'm extremely spiritual. But I yet don't see an afterlife.
Right.
For anyone listening to that, I mean, everyone has their own opinions. That's
of course.
Mine. So I would remind people, look, you only live once. Take care of yourself, take care of your health, take care of your well-being, because that will also leave a legacy to people around you. If you don't take care of yourself, people will not feel that energized, positive energy, because what you put in your body will dramatically affect the outer being. And so that's the one thing that I want to leave my legacy with is making sure that right now, as we speak, I can make that impact on people's lives. And I can tell you a quick story. I had a guy who came up to me at a gym, and I'm not a huge fan of people coming up to the gym, to me at the gym, because honestly, it's my time.
Yes.
It's my time to perfect myself. But this gentleman came over, and he said that, he had read one of my posts. He wrote me, and I wrote him back. And I don't remember who this was, so, when he came up to me, I didn't know who he was. But he said something I said about one of my posts had stopped him from becoming an alcoholic and having his kids removed from him because he
Wow.
had just lost his wife. So he just became a widower.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that something I said in one of my posts made him stop drinking alcohol and start taking care of his kids.
Wow.
So I said, you know what, I'm doing something right. You know,
Absolutely, man.
We beat ourselves up so much, but I try to remember the people I've had a slight impact in. That's why I do what I do.
Yeah, yeah.
So that if anyone decides to change their life, and they don't even need to tell me, this guy was more than generous to come and share his story with me. I've done my job. You
Yeah,
know? So
of course.
That's kind of my purpose. My motto is, if I can impact at least one person in any way, any way, whether it's a smile or make them feel better a day, then I've accomplished my mission in this
Beautiful,
life.
man. Yeah, cool. All right, so Alex, the last question as a part of the warm-up, do you have a favorite or most listened to podcast? And maybe if you don't listen to podcasts too much, maybe there's like maybe a YouTube channel or something that you just gained some motivation, inspiration from that you wouldn't mind sharing with the listeners.
Not at all. I think you brought it up before that in life we go through different phases, and in different phases we seek different things in ourselves and in our life. Back in the day, I used to watch a lot of fitness podcasts. So not watch, listen to a lot of fitness podcasts and watch a lot of YouTube videos. For a while there, I was a big fan of Andy Frisella, MFL CEO. He had a lot of business advice. Another guy I used to enjoy listening to was the 10X guy. Oh my God, I just forgot his name.
Grant Cardone.
Yes.
Yeah,
Grant
I
Cardone.
love. I'm reading. I'm reading his. No, I'm not reading 10X. I'm reading Be Obsessed or Be Average right now.
Yeah.
I'm literally reading that book right now, and it's great, man. You either love Grant Cardone or you hate him. I find him as a man who's just. I mean, he's just speaking his truth, man. He's unashamed, and you can't deny what he's done. You know what I mean? So
all these people that come from nowhere and build a legacy are always going to be hated because they've found their way to succeed in life, and whether you approve or not, the methodology that they did, that's not up to you. They're the ones who built this legacy. But Grant Cardone was a big one for business lately.
Love it.
But again, now I'm not listening to anything because I'm actually trying to decloud my mindset from other people's opinions so that I can create my own and create my own path. I think right now we're in a society that is obsessed with information, but information doesn't necessarily mean knowledge. And then if there is a lot of knowledge out there, it's not even about hearing it, it's about applying it. So you could listen to all the podcasts every morning, you could listen to, podcasts. They're a phenomenal way for people to learn, especially because most of them are free.
Yeah.
But you got to apply that knowledge.
Absolutely.
And the biggest problem with podcasts, YouTubes, and self-help books, in my opinion, is they try and solve one problem, and then you realize you have 3 or 4 more. So then you have to buy the next book or listen to the next podcast to solve.
The upsell, right? Yep.
So that's the thing, though. I realized I spent so much time trying to learn from different aspects, business, self-being, all that I realized I'm never going to be perfect. There's always going to be flaws. I'm never going to be able to fix all these flaws. I still read a book on average a month. I still actually, I should have said this in the beginning. One of my things, you mentioned the morning, but it's not my morning ritual. It's a daily ritual. I have to listen to one TED Talk a day on any random subject, simply so I can expand my own mindset. The TED Talk people are phenomenal. I had the chance to talk to the people who created it. As I was going to be one of their guests with them to talk about body dysmorphia here in the TED Talk Mile High X.
Awesome.
And so after talking to them, I realized, actually I was in the room with all these people, and I realized, oh my God, there's so much knowledge here. You feel very inferior because you feel like the information that you have is not as good as the information.
Right.
I was literally sitting to a guy who, was talking about robotics, another guy who, was in Africa shooting documentaries during all these the wars out there, and I'm here talking about body dysmorphia and these people are talking about future robotics, but that's what the world can make us feel like, that what we do or who we are is inferior to other people. But that's why I love being in that room, because they were doing the preliminaries to see who would move to the final stages. The feedback I got is I am way too young to be talking about body dysmorphia. So I didn't make it to the finals, and everyone else on average was about 50 years old. And I said, I spoke to the producers and I said, well, if age is a determining factor for who's going to go on stage, then you guys have a problem there, because there's people who've lived more being 30 than people who live more than being 50.
Wow, that's powerful, man.
And he agreed quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try again in 2020
Of
to be one of the
course.
talkers. But listening to one TED Talk a day, any subject, productivity, happiness, depression, just so I can learn one new thing every single day and, you know, just expand that knowledge.
Cool. Now, I before we kind of get deeper into your story, I want to talk about, you know, you mentioned like you said declouding and kind of just like, you know, maybe removing yourself from so much of the podcasts and the books and all this information to kind of like, you know, gather your own thoughts, right? Would you speak on that a little bit more in depth, Alex? Because that's something that's kind of that's kind of rattled around in my brain, and I've heard a few other people talk about, even like I think we mentioned before we turn on the mic, like, you know, this social media detox, and there's been books now coming out, you know, kind of referencing to unplugging and things like that. So for you personally, how important is it, or has it been, to kind of step away from, you know, maybe ingesting so much information and things like that to really gather your own thoughts? What's the power in that for you?
Well, here's the thing. Every time we see society moving in one direction, there's always going to be people who are going to capitalize on it. So now we're seeing a lot of people with the unplugged, or, you know, they always say we're the most connected society, but we're so disconnected with ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of truth to it. But the thing is, we hear so many people's voices with YouTube's, podcasts, social media, that we forget to listen to our own voice. So who are we as individuals if all we do is take opinions and thoughts and ideas from someone else?
I love that.
And not create our own. So even when I was opening my business here, I was, you know, obviously getting inspired by other businesses, but I knew that the demographic, the location, all these other factors weren't going to, you know, be the same as the way that other people who opened their business was going to be. So I said, I have to, you know, do things my way. And, you know, the question we always have to ask ourselves, which is one of the hardest questions, is, who am I? You know, what are my morals? Am I a good, bad person? What am I basing that on? Am I able to do things without having to have someone else's opinion? Now, as I said, knowledge can become very useful, so learning how to do something can be very beneficial, but converting those thoughts into your own so that you can create something of your own is very important. So you can take away the message of any podcast, YouTube, whatever you want, but then start filtering that into your own mindset so that it becomes your thought, not someone else's thought. Because, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of things these days, especially when it comes to the fitness community, is very recycled. Diets are extremely recycled.
For sure.
We call it keto, but, you know, 20 years ago or so, it used to be the Atkins diet.
Of course.
It used to be, this used to be the other day, you know. So people just rebrand things, market them, and sell them with the concept of being new. And that's what's happening with us too. You know, our thoughts original? Are our thoughts unique? And that's one of the reasons why I use meditation in the morning, is to clear my thoughts, make sure that, you know, what's coming from me is me, not being biased by someone else. Because when it comes to, you know, health and wellness, I have to be the most unbiased and person that I can be, because someone comes in here and says, hey, look, I want to lose weight this way, and this way, because I saw that this celebrity did it this way, or this social media posted it that way. So yeah, I agree with that, you know, but, you know, I got to create something that's based on your lifestyle, not on a celebrity who has a chef, who has, you know, a personal trainer at 24/7.
Right.
We need to create something that works for you, not that's worked for the masses. Because, you know, when we bundle up people as in the mass, we take away what's unique from us. And I feel like companies, gyms, a lot of businesses are taking away our identities to sell us something in a mass production when it doesn't serve our needs, individual needs. So that's why I always encourage people, you know, take 5 to 8 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be in the morning like I do, but just gather your thoughts, you know, think about how the day went, think about what you want to do the next day, and, you know, think about yourself. That's one of the things we don't do enough, is, can you talk to yourself? It sounds weird, but
it doesn't sound weird to me, man.
Yeah.
That's real talk. I mean, straight up.
Yeah, but we are so immersed with what other people are doing with their life that we forget how to live our life. And by the time we even start thinking about that, it's already 10 p.m. It's time to go to bed.
Yeah.
And, you know, go back to work. So one of the questions I always ask my clients is, how much time are you spending a day taking care of yourself and taking care of your well-being? Because if you can take care of yourself, then trust me, even if you're a parent, you're not going to be able to take care of your kid to full potential.
For sure.
So energy does run down.
Yeah. Whew. That's some good stuff, man. I'm that's definitely resonating with me. So I appreciate you kind of touching on the declouding and kind of just gathering your thoughts a little bit more. That's great stuff, Alex. So now I just kind of want to move into kind of like what you referenced earlier, kind of what your book's about. It's kind of your story. So that's really what I want you to share kind of with the listeners, Alex. Where did you grow up? You already mentioned previously that you didn't grow up in the United States. And so just where did you grow up? What did those younger years look like? Do you have any siblings, things like that? Your experience coming over to the United States. Let's just kind of talk about those younger years. And then kind of once we get up to maybe the high school years, we'll kind of move on into your 20s and things like that.
So, I mean, I was very blessed to be brought up by amazing parents. They gave me everything I wanted. My father was a diplomat for the United Nations. My mother was a doctor. She went to school for 20 years plus. She studied bacteria, microbes, everything, was given to me. I never had a hard childhood. I did go to Catholic school, pretty close to the Vatican, so obviously religion was pretty much forced down my throat. I was in a school where you had to pray 3 times a day. You had to wear the tie uniform, the formal shoes. I don't regret that now, but back in the day, I remember, this was a pain in the ass to wear.
Yeah.
I didn't have problems growing up until I switched countries. I switched countries quite a bit. I was born in Brazil, raised in Europe for most of my life. Then I went to Santiago de Chile. And that's when I had my first social problem, because what I used to wear in Europe was not socially accepted as a kid in Santiago. I remember being made fun of for having a scarf that had roses in it. So I rebelled quite a bit against these kids. My parents are always called into the principal's office because I wouldn't just sit there and be bullied, So constantly my parents were in the office or asking me, what's going on with you, Alex? I'd explain, look, they're making fun of me for wearing these clothes, and wearing these scarves. And my parents agree with me, like, we agree, this is a different culture. Let's not wear these clothes and see what happens. And I went to an extremely private, elementary, middle school, and high school. And to fit in, you had to be wearing name brand stuff.
Right.
You had to wear what was it back in the day? The Oakleys.
Fubu
was big. What else? Airwalk.
Yeah.
All these 90s
That's
skateboarding
awesome,
companies.
dude. The 90s, man. The 90s.
And so, my parents started buying me these clothes so that I would be more socially acceptable.
Yeah.
I was part of the cool kids because I was, wearing those clothes. And I never had a true passion for fitness, though, at that age. I didn't want to play sports. I was actually kind of getting overweight because I used to play Counter-Strike, if anyone remembers those.
Okay.
It was the first generation of online gaming.
Uh-huh.
I would always spend my time on those LAN cafes and go with my friends, eat chips.
Yeah.
I remember my 8th grade picture. I was wearing a black turtleneck. It looked like a headshot of a bad porno movie in 8th grade. And my face was pretty big, man. I was like, wow, this isn't cool. It was in 9th grade, in 8th grade, like I said too, that my English teacher told my parents that, hey, your son's English isn't proficient enough to take him to the U.S.
Wow.
And then it was around 8th grade that my brother decided to take me to a local gym during summer break because he's like, dude, I can't take it you playing Halo and being stuck on the computer all day long.
Yeah.
I'm going to take you to a gym. So he took me to this local gym that he used to go in Brazil. He used to live in Brazil. I have 2 older siblings. And he used to live in Brazil. He was doing his PhD back then. And I love the gym, man. Just one look at that, it reminded me of all my favorite, cartoons like Dragon Ball and, everything I used to watch in the 90s. All these big muscle dudes. And I was like, dude, I love it. So I went up to this one guy at the gym. I remember he was a big guy. And I was like, hey, how do I become like you? And he started giving me all this advice. I'm like, man, you're cool.
Yeah.
I want to be like you. So it was kind of around that turnaround of middle school to high school that I started getting a little bit more into sports.
Okay.
I played volleyball in high school. I went to the gym maybe once a week. And then, you're becoming a teenager. You want the six-pack. You want to, attract the girls. So I started going more and more to the gym. And then by junior year of high school...
That's okay.
By junior year of high school, my friends were like, wow, dude, you're getting pretty big and jacked. How you doing it? So I obviously liked the attention.
Of course.
I kept doing it for the attention.
Yeah.
But I knew that, if I wanted to be better, I needed to learn more about it. Obviously, the internet wasn't as well informed as it was today. So I remember going on one or two websites. I had a lot of information. I said, okay, to get big, you got to eat big.
Yep.
So
I remember that terminology being thrown around all the time on the internet and magazines.
And then, there were certain companies selling supplements, take this and you'll be 5,000 times bigger, 4 times bigger. I'm like, oh, shit, I want to be 5,000 times bigger. So I remember I took my allowance money, ran to a supplement store, bought my first tub of whey protein and creatine. I remember that both taste like ass.
Oh yeah, dude, it was really
awful.
bad, man.
I had to close my nose and drink that stuff. The funny thing is I hid it in my closet. I was like hiding my protein and creatine like it was a stash of porn because I didn't want my parents to find out.
Yeah.
We grew up with two maids. One of the maids found it in the closet. Like, what the hell is this white powder? I'm like, I swear to God, it's not drugs. And my parents like, no, you're cool. You can take this. We'll buy it for you. So they supported that initial cause.
Awesome.
And then obviously, your junior, senior year, your parents start asking you, what do you want to do with your life? Which is a question you should not ask a 17, 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to get into fitness, and I want to be a model, and I want to be in magazines. And my parents are like, you're gotta be effing kidding me. Like, your mom's, a doctor. I'm gonna be ambassador. You want to be a PE teacher? I said, no, I didn't want to be a PE teacher. I want to be a fitness model. So my parents did a little bit of research. They found out that there was a degree called kinesiology. That sounded more medically accepted.
There you go. Yeah.
And so I started applying to several schools during junior and senior year to go into kinesiology school. And my father's boss was from Colorado. And
cool.
He had told my dad, hey, your son's going to love Colorado. It's very active. If he wants to get into the whole fitness thing, it's very active. I wanted to go to California because I got accepted to University of Southern California.
Okay.
I wanted the California living life,
Muscle Beach, right,
Muscle
dude?
Beach, and the girls. And let me tell you this, man. When you're a foreigner and you don't live in the U.S., California is this, like, amazing place where you got chicks and you got muscle and it's gonna be fun. My parents unfortunately did not want me to go to California. They thought it was gonna be a little bit too much for someone who was always sheltered in life. They gave me the option of going to 3 other schools that I got accepted. One was Boise State, the other one was here at UNC, University of Northern Colorado, and then University of Florida.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I'll be one of the Gators. And Gatorade was invented there. I'm gonna go there. And then my father's like, you know what? I want you to go to Colorado. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. If I don't like it, I'll just transfer, right?
Yeah.
Well, coming to Colorado was amazing, man. Everyone was so welcoming. I remember the first night of the dorms, I told my roommates, hey, I want to go to the gym. I was so excited because people don't understand that the gyms outside of, the United States back in the day, they weren't as cool as the ones in the U.S. And, you could have all these supplements. I mean, now I had all the tools necessary. My roommates go, you're not looking for the gym, you're looking for the girls. You got the wrong G word here, man. You got to look for the girls. Screw the girls, I want to go to the gym. So every night during college years, I would spend 2-3 hours at the gym.
Wow.
That's where I met my first friends here in the States.
Cool.
I met a really cool guy called Rob. Rob helped me, get into my first bodybuilding show. And then I also got married pretty young. I got married during junior year. I thought I had found the love of my life. I think we all make. I don't want to call it a mistake.
Yeah.
We fall in love. We do silly things. Unfortunately, that marriage doesn't last long because of the new lifestyle that I was going to slowly adopt to become, a Mr. Olympia physique division guy, or But college years were fun. All I did was go to the gym. Study because I had to keep a GPA above 3.3 in order, which it's not that hard.
Right.
And partying just wasn't one of my things. I was so obsessed with the gym and getting bigger and just being better that I had this one thing in my mind. I need to get a fitness cover because I wasn't sure if I was going to stay in the U.S. long enough for my visa to expire.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be someone, and I think that's a huge part of our history as humans. We all want to fit in. We all want to be something better and bigger than ourselves so that we can just feel superior. Things change over time. But at 22, I got my first cover, and I remember, it says Rising Star Alex Carneiro. And I'm like, this is it. I have to stay in this country. I'll do whatever the hell it takes.
Right.
I didn't have to do everything it took because, back then my ex-wife said, let's get married. I don't want you to leave the country. I want you to stay here with me. That didn't last longer than a year.
Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
just sad. I was really, but it was during that phase that I want to say the book that I wrote starts picking up, because it was during that phase of my life that I call my dark period. You know, my middle ages of life started happening.
Yeah.
And that was because I started getting so obsessed with being number one and competing, especially in a new division that had already even used my silhouette of my own body online on their website as the representation of this category. So I had all this pressure, like, you have to do it. You have to be the first Mr. Olympian physique. You have to be an IFBB pro. That literally my obsession with, you know, that category just started creating very bad habits. And by that I mean, you know, cardio 2 hours a day, eating 1,500 calories, and working out, you know, being so obsessed with the external shell that screw the internal shell. I'm in my early 20s. Who cares about health at that point? Well, I tell my clients now, what you do in your 20s, you pay in your 30s.
For sure.
And if you don't take care of your 40s, you know, or your 30s, you're screwed in your 40s.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, great advice.
So I remember, you know, I'd been a trainer since I was 18. And I applied for one of the hardest, you know, gyms in Denver, which they offered me a job immediately as one of their interns as part of my college degree. They offered me a job right after my internship. I stayed there for 2 years. I learned so much. And then I wanted more. And then I turned into an IFBB pro, and I said, you know what? I'm going to be the first IFBB pro physique to have a team here in Colorado. I started prepping athletes for that world. I competed over 30 competitions in those 7 years competing. And, you know, when you compete 30 times, you are probably on prep mode more than half the year. And, you know, mentally, I was just exhausted. You know, these diets just deplete you out of your soul, especially when you do 6 or 7 back-to-back in a year.
For
you know?
sure, yeah.
I had amazing coaches, but unfortunately, that lifestyle was very fake. I had very fake friends, people who were only around me because I was a pro, because I had sponsors, because I was getting more magazines. Everyone thought I was going to hook them up with something. I was definitely dating the wrong people, you know.
Right, of
I wanted
course,
to date people who were someone. I wanted, you know, so I was dating Olympic athletes, playmates, Maxim models, all the dreams that every guy wants.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just so unsatisfied with myself, and, you know, when you're unsatisfied with yourself, you're not going to be in a happy relationship. You're going to choose the people negatively to be surrounded by, you know. And then I finally met my fiance, my current fiance, halfway through my competing years, and she said something I'll never forget. She said, "You're so miserable all the time. You're always looking forward to the end of a prep. Why do you keep doing this to yourself?" And it kind of clicked in my head. I'm like, wow, you're right. And so I started using excuses. All my sponsors require me to compete. I, you know, need to do this to prove to myself that she's like, you proved yourself more than well enough. I mean, you were the first one in the state of Colorado. You were the first Latin, you know, to represent this division. You were top 10 at the Mr. Olympia. You've already had multiple international ads. You have multiple international covers. What else do you want? And I said, you know what? I don't know. I don't know what I'm seeking out of this. And I realized years and years later, what I was doing is just feeding the ego. You know, I wasn't really truly helping anyone else. I was just trying to help myself so I could get more and more and more, to be seen more and more and more. And in reality, I had already accomplished everything I wanted since I entered the country at the age of 26. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do now? Like, I don't have anything else to do then. And she said, why don't you put all that energy and try and help other people and actually, you know, change their lives for the better. Don't do competitors, or, you know, stay away from that industry, which I did, and it's completely changed my life. And that's why I wrote the book, because I wanted to enlighten people that that industry does have a darker side to it, like anything else in life.
Of course.
But it's a darker side that no one talks about. No one wants to be open about it because everyone's scared that the organization is going to, you know, ban them or blackmail them. I don't know. You know, so no one wants to talk about it because they're scared about not placing. And I'm like, look, you're competing in a very extremely political gambling, because you don't know what's going to happen. That, you know, you could... I'm not going to lie to you. I have literally seen first place checks written under my name, and then in the evening, the checks would be ripped and given to someone else in first place, because the coaches would be upset that I got center callouts in the middle, and their students or their athletes weren't getting the middle first callout.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. Like, I'm never going to forget this one time. There's a guy who took third callouts and then randomly won the show. And... you know, they literally moved them from third call-outs to first call-outs.
Right.
For anyone who doesn't know what a call out is, basically it's just, they pick the first 5, then they pick the next 5, and then they pick the next 5, and then usually not usually, actually, that means you're the number 1 to number 5, number 6 to number 10, number 11 to number 15. So they took someone who was supposed to be between 11 and 15 and bumped him up to first place because I heard backstage the coach had dropped a lot of money into the sponsorship for the show. It wasn't fair. He was from that state. I wasn't from the state, and I was already qualified for the Olympia, and this guy needed to qualify for the Olympia.
Right.
And it's just I kept telling myself, okay, I'll just keep doing another show and another show, and I've kept seeing these things happen. And I was like, I'm sacrificing my health. I'm sacrificing, I wasn't sacrificing money, thank God, which I feel bad for the people who sacrifice a lot of money to be in that.
Right.
My sponsors were taking care of everything, but
Yeah.
sacrificing my time, my patience, my health, just so that I would lose due to political reasons. And look, life is all about politics. Let's be honest. Life is all about who you know. That's not a fair lesson, but that's just the reality of how things work in this
For
life.
sure. Yep.
I didn't know the right people. I thought I did, but I wasn't. So I said, you know what? I'll play this dirty game. So I hired the right coach. Started doing well at shows again. I have never not been top call-outs besides the Olympia, which I was fine to be top 10 in the world.
Absolutely.
But I was like, you know what? This isn't for me anymore. Like, literally we're sitting in front of a wall with my covers here, and I remember there's one right here that I did this photo shoot for a really, really big name magazine, and I had been dehydrated for 4 days, hadn't eaten for almost 2 days, and then when we started shooting, it was a 9-hour photo shoot, and at the end of that photo shoot, I had a meltdown at the airport. I started drinking at the airport, and obviously dehydration and alcohol don't go so well.
Right.
My jaws started locking, my
Wow.
body started locking, and the stewardess was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I don't feel good. Can you guys bring me some salt? I need something with salt." So that my muscles wouldn't stop cramping, and the whole flight was horrible. I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I'm not doing this shit to myself anymore.
Yeah.
I just feel bad for everyone who believes that that's the path to success. The outside will not bring inner peace in the inside. So my living today is all about taking care of the inside, so that the outside can reflect what is going on in the inside.
Right. Right.
Mentally and organ-wise and physiologically speaking.
Now, Alex, I wanna just kind of expound a little bit on kind of like the darker side of competing and things like that. So let's take it from this angle. Like, again, I've already mentioned it, but we're the same age. We grew up looking at the magazines, the bodybuilding magazines, the health magazines and all that. What was something that really surprised you or kind of caught you off guard from when you kind of were on the outside of kind of the fitness world, opposed to like when you actually stepped into the fitness world? Is there one thing that kind of, when I ask that question, is there one thing that kind of stands out when you're like, man, once I kind of like stepped into that inner world of the fitness world, so to speak, this really caught me off guard or surprised me, and I want it to be maybe something kind of like in the negative sense, so that listeners that are really idolizing these people on Instagram, the six packs and the big muscles and all that, they can maybe say, hey, you know what, before I enter in this world, I should maybe think about what Alex shared with me on this podcast.
I wasn't too surprised about the steroids, let's be honest. Like, even at a young age, I understood what steroids did, and I knew that when I picked up these magazines and I saw these bodies, I knew that in order to look that way, you just have to do them.
Right,
there's no way
right.
around them. We know about the side effects, but everyone takes them.
Right.
That was never a surprise. I think the biggest surprise, and this doesn't have to do with social media, but the biggest surprise was the politics. How much a coach could influence the outcome of a show because they're bringing X amount of athletes to a show. So then, because I'm bringing you so many athletes, I demand that my athletes do better because it's all about money. It's all about money, right?
Of course.
And this isn't just in the U.S. This is an international matter. I've seen this countless times. I've been on the table where the next 3 pro shows are going to be already chosen because of money. So if I bring these many athletes, you're going to make sure that this girl does this well. If I bring this many athletes to your show, then make sure that this girl gets taken care of. So the politics was really, really, really a disappointment because my coaches would always go up and be like, okay, you need to go talk to that judge right now, introduce yourself. You need to go and sit talk and make an introduction. Look, it makes sense, right? If you know someone and you see their face and you see them back on stage, it's just clear as day and night that most likely you're going to make a biased opinion on who you're choosing. But it was beyond that, man. It's just a kissing ass, and you constantly have to be introduced to new judges, and look, I liked some of the judges. Some of the judges were really cool. They were really honest, down to earth. But those were very few exceptions.
Right.
Then you have the promoters, who are talking to the judges. If you're in this state, I want this athlete to do better because he represents my state. So then when he goes to the Olympia, we can do more. What do you call them? Those posing seminars, because my guy did the Olympia. So if I hosted a posing seminar and he was at the Olympia, we're gonna get more people recruited to the next, show here locally. So all that politics, dude, it got so freaking old. I was just like, this has nothing to do with how I look. This is who I know.
Right.
Which again taught me a good lesson. Life is about who you know. But yeah, I mean, backstage, man. Let's be honest. Like the pharmaceutical diuretics. The thyroid hormones, the steroids. People just think steroids. I'm like, look, steroids are your least of your concerns. Right. It's the medical form. Well, that's why competitors die. And it's funny no one brings this up, but they're dying because they're taking so much water out of their system. Their heart has problems beating because of that. It's the thyroid medication in order to increase your metabolism. It's all these things added up that you're like, oh my God, why are we doing this to our bodies when it's supposed to be about health? Well, at least that's what Instagram and magazine covers tell you, right? You'll see a magazine cover with the dude that says be the best you or have the best health, but the guys, trust me, I've been on the cover and I've been smiling fakely, dying to get a sip of water. That's what we put in a magazine, and that's what we're selling. So now with social media, what I tell everyone is, you don't know what's going on behind the curtains. You don't know how many drugs this person might be taking. All these quote-unquote naturals out there that they send these drug tests to, all you got to do is, lay off the gear for a few months, take the test, pass as positive, and go back to the gear.
Right.
It's not like you're going to lose that much muscle mass. And so social media is a smoke and mirrors. You can out-angle someone, you can Photoshop, you can choose the right lighting, you can, you take 1,000 pictures, choose only one. Don't live your life based on the perception that you're going to look like anyone else. You should just be happy to be alive and be yourself, and that itself should be the best advice that anyone gets to be unique in social media.
Yeah.
I get so many young kids saying, how do I get a following? I'm like, dude, don't worry about the following, be you.
Yes.
And I always ask, why do you want this? That's the biggest question I always ask people. Why do you want to do this? And the number one reason, it's full of shit, it's I want to motivate and inspire others to be better. At 16, at 18,
right,
brother, take care of yourself. Be your own motivation before you start motivating others. And it's because, like, again, it's a society that pushes people to want to be something they're not. Like, so many people ask me, how do you take this picture? And what camera do you use? And, what editing software? I'm like, dude, if I were to put that much thought into my business, I'd be a freaking millionaire by now.
Right, yeah.
Like, the thing about Instagram is you post a picture, maybe a few hours later, someone else posted another one on top of you, you get forgotten.
Yep, of course. Great point.
You're going to constantly be worried about what the best picture is. Look, unless you're posting tits and ass, which everyone unfortunately follows, sex sells. No one's going to take the time to see the details on your photography unless you're posting something extremely meaningful. And if you're going to post something meaningful, be the person who always does that so that people can actually follow your account because of the content that you're trying to do to help others. If you're going to be the guy who just posts abs and puts a Bible quote or puts an emoji or says caption this, I'm sorry, but you know what? Like, life is a little bit more meaningful than caption this.
Right.
Caption your own shit before you try to caption other people.
Yeah, that's good. So I want to take a step back to kind of like when you were on your rise or uprise in regards to the fitness industry, because there had to have been obviously some awesome moments, like you kind of referenced already, Alex. We're sitting in your office at your training studio here, and we've got the magazine covers and pictures in magazines right in front of us. So I want to talk about, before we kind of phase out of like your competing and kind of like the publicity through fitness and things like that, before we phase out of that, I want to just touch on what were maybe a couple moments where it's like, man, maybe it was when you got your first magazine cover, or when you got to step on the Olympia stage. Like, you've, for 32 years young, I don't like to say old, 32 years young, you've lived a lot of life, right, man? And you've been to the top. in regards to kind of like the fitness industry. So what are a couple of those moments that were maybe surreal for you and were really humbling in a good sense? Because we just kind of talked about, some of the dark side, and that's like we've already talked about. That's in every aspect of life. There's light, there's darkness, there's good, there's bad. But what were a couple of those moments within the fitness industry before you stepped away from competing and things like that, that were just kind of like, wow, I made it, or I can't believe I'm here?
Well, you're right. The dark side sells.
Right.
The dark side makes people identify with who they are,
Mm-hmm.
and the dark side, the not so pleasant side.
Yeah.
Just is more relatable to most people because that's what most people don't talk about, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you're right. There has been things in this journey that I'll never forget. That first cover really meant a lot to me because that was something I sent to my parents.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was like, look, I know you guys weren't supporting the whole fitness model thing. You guys weren't supporting this whole public figure kind of thing. But this is what I'm becoming, and this is what I kind of want to do, And my father said, look, as long as you're paying your bills, you're good. Do whatever the hell you want.
Awesome.
So that first cover was very, very, very meaningful, especially
Mm-hmm.
the way they phrased the rising star. It was really, really important to me.
Cool.
It gave me hope. Let's be honest, being the first IFBB Pro Physique in Colorado was really, really a rush,
Mm-hmm.
walking into, and I write that in my book, that rush of walking into a facility and you're the first pro, you get the pats, everyone's loving you. It's all fake, let's be honest, but at the moment it feels amazing.
Of course,
You feel, cloud nine. Meeting all these superstars too, all these people that I used to read about and see in magazines were now people that were backstage at the shows that I was competing in. I got to meet Greg Plitt because of that industry. I got to meet the Stan McQuay, who was one of my original role models to wanting to achieve that physique. I got to meet everyone inside the industry that I used to glorify, and that was really, really cool. And I'm not gonna lie, that Mr. Olympia stage being making history. That was something I'll never ever forget.
Absolutely, man.
First generation,
Yeah.
there is no more first generation, but that first generation physique athletes, being the fourth pro in the history of the sport was really cool. Traveling because of that was also pretty fun, getting to meet other, potential physique athletes around the world. Traveling is extremely essential part of my life. Competing also developed the discipline to do a lot of things differently in my life. The habits I have today weren't too hard to adapt because I had much harder habits back in the day. So, eating the way I do, training the way I do, thinking the way I do was quite easier compared to the competitor lifestyle.
Right.
But it is not a lifestyle that well, first of all, it's not a lifestyle. Okay, competing is not a lifestyle. It's just a journey in people's lives. I remember my first television hosting show. Had 5 episodes given to me, produced by a station here in Colorado. And by the 5th station, the producer, director of the station, stops me and says, hey, look, your ratings are going down. I really need to know, and I don't mean this in a really bad way, but do you have cancer? And I said, no, why do you ask? He's like, your eyes are sinking into your skull, your cheekbones are coming out, you got veins coming out everywhere, but you're, I'm like, oh, no, that's just part of being a competitor. He's like, it doesn't look good on TV, my friend. So I was like, okay, I'm losing my first gig as a television host because of competing. I didn't make a big deal about it then. There are ups and downs. We tend to remember mainly the downs.
Right.
Because those are the ones that make us grow. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones, you're not going to grow from getting everything you want. You're going to grow from not getting everything you want.
For sure.
And I remember at that age, man, I was so ambitious. I would send hundreds of emails to so many companies. Hey, I'd love to be a sponsored athlete. Hey, I'd love to be in your cover. Hey, I'd love to be in your show. And, no was a very common answer. And to me, no just meant next opportunity. That's what the NL stand for. But if it wasn't for that competing and constantly, being awake late night, sending emails to companies, and I wouldn't have expanded my network. And obviously, I didn't have social media back in the day. Facebook wasn't used the way it is. LinkedIn, it wasn't used the way it is.
Yeah.
So everything had to be, okay, open a magazine, find the editorial's name, find the photographer and see if they have their email. It was a lot more work than, Google something, But I want to say that the best thing about that whole experience was building the discipline, building the habits that made me better these days. like always, take the good out of the good and eliminate the bad.
Right, right.
Just that's what life is. You learn, you take the good, you apply it. Obviously, at one point, something's going to fail. You go back, you reapply it. So many people ask me, like, what are your biggest failures? And I say, you know what? I don't have any failures. Like, I don't think I've had any failures. People ask me, well, you didn't place number one. I'm like, so? That wasn't a failure. I gave it my all.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't get, more sponsors. I'm like, dude, I had the best one in the world, and I still do.
Right.
I so many self-help books and so many YouTubes about self-help always ask you, assess your failures. And I'm like, I don't see failures in my life. I only see experiences that I learned more from. And it's funny how today we emphasize that in order to be good, you have to have a shitty past. You have to have, something bad happen to you in order to change your life. And I disagree with that. Like, it is harder because you get complacent or you get pretty happy with what you have, and then it's hard to grow. But if you have that ambitious being in you about wanting more out of life, you can be born with a silver spoon or you can be born in a ghetto. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You're just going to thrive no matter what.
Beautiful, man. So I kind of want to bring us up to where you're at today. So you did the competing and you magazines and Mr. Olympia and all that stuff, and then you said the woman that your fiance, right? She's your fiance right now. She kind of mentioned something to you like, hey, like you're never happy and all this stuff. So was that really the powerful catalyst, Alex, to kind of get you to kind of like step out of the competing, kind of like figure out what's next, or was there maybe something past what she said?
That was a catalyst for sure.
Okay.
But it was also the politics, man. I was just getting so tired of not taking first place and taking second or third because of the reasons I explained before. I was just tired of it, man. The body was just deteriorating.
Yeah.
Another thing that happened to me was I was having a PVC, which is a premature ventricular contraction in my heart.
Okay.
So I got my blood work done. It was super, super thick. And the doctor said, look, it doesn't help that you're living in Colorado. It doesn't help that you exercise. But there's a lot of factors in your lifestyle that are making your blood thick. This isn't good. And so what it feels like is you're getting a premature beat in your heart before it's supposed to happen. And it gets quite annoying because you might be in bed relaxing and you feel like that little bit of a punch in the heart before it should have happened.
Okay.
I said, no way, dude. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be this guy at 40 who's gonna die of a problem with my heart. So got my blood work done again. I started donating blood, which I do every 51 days. So if you get a chance, donate blood. It's good for everyone. And I started changing my lifestyle towards wellness, not towards bodybuilding. So what that did was, I remember waking up one morning and I couldn't put my shoe on top of my knee because my glutes and my hamstrings were so tight because all I cared about was building muscle. I never cared about mobility, flexibility, agility, power, endurance. I thought only pussies did that. I was like, I'm not going to be this little yogi guy who's going to start doing yoga.
For sure.
Well, skip 5 years later, that's what I do.
There you go, man, right? Never say never.
Never say never.
I'm learning that.
But, I took 2 years of Pilates because I had to realign my body. The instructor told me, you have the worst body I've ever seen for someone your age. You can't even touch your toes. You can't even scratch your back. So all those stereotypes about the big guys, that they can't scratch their own ass. And I hate to say it, it's kind of true, if you don't work. And so after the book, I realized, fitness is a multidimensional aspect. It's not just one thing. And that's the problem with social media, is that you see the muscle guy doing just the muscle stuff, and you don't actually see what potentially could go behind the scenes. Is he stretching?
Right.
But, stretching and mobility shit doesn't sell good. It's not fun.
It's not sexy, man.
It's not sexy unless you're a chick.
Right, for sure.
So I said, you know what? I need to take care of my life in different aspects. I can't just build muscle. So I was a pretty big guy. I was 225 at 8% body fat. I said, screw it. I need to drop weight. I need to be about 205 pounds. I need to work on my flexibility. I need to work on my mobility. I need to work on my cardiovascular endurance. So the first thing I did was join a few Spartan races just to switch it up. I was also so bored of doing the typical bro split, chest day, back day, bicep and tricep day, that I needed to spice things up. And now that was kind of like the new chapter of my life, is trying new things. I was doing Pilates. By that point in my life, funny enough, one of my neighbors was actually dating a WWE superstar. She's one of the people on the Total Divas reality entertainment show.
Cool, yeah.
And he said, dude, I really like if you can help me. My girlfriend, she's on TV every day. So she connected me then with the whole casting of the the E! Entertainment television show, Total Divas.
Yeah, yeah.
These are the girls, on TV doing a reality show and living their WWE life.
Mm-hmm.
So he helped me hooked up with that. I networked with all these girls. Every time they were in town for SmackDown or something, I would go backstage and talk to them. That was fun. So that kind of opened my whole quote-unquote celebrity training lifestyle because of them, they had different roles in different movies or different, television shows. So I started training some of these girls and some of these guys for those roles, to be the bad guy at Arrow or something like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of gave me that status of celebrity trainer, which I used to further expand my business towards being on television more often and educating more people, not with what celebrities are doing, but just to spread my philosophies.
Yeah.
My fiance was the trigger. She wanted to now open a facility. She's like, hey, look, Alex, I'm tired of working for corporate. They take all the money. It's a pain in the ass to deal with bosses. I really want to open my business. And I said, well, babe, I really want to go to California and, work with bigger celebrities.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, look, if the gym fails, then, we'll go to California and you can live that dream of yours. The gym hasn't failed. Actually, it's been good.
That's good.
The gym has been good for day one. Yeah, it's phenomenal. We didn't move out there. I don't see myself moving out there. It is obviously harder working with that kind of crowd when there aren't any celebrities in Colorado. But, I train news anchors here. I train retired pro athletes. I train younger athletes. The vast demographic of people that I work with. But the most attributing thing, the thing that brings me the most amount of happiness is being able to transform those people's lives. That's why I do what I've been doing for the last almost 13 years, which is helping people achieve that well-being, the three-dimensional well-being. So it's not just building muscle. I learned from my experiences, it's like, don't just build muscle. Trust me, work on that flexibility, work on different aspects. You want to lose weight? Let's do, I always explain it this way. 4 plus 4 is 8, 7 plus 1 is 8, 6 plus 2 is 8. There's different ways to get to the same route. Let's just get to the route. Try my way, see if you feel better. Feeling better is my number one thing. I don't care how good you look. If you don't feel good, it's not worth it. And anyone who does come into my consultation and says, hey, I just want to look good, I don't care about how I feel, I just say, look, I apologize, I'm not your guy. I'm not going to be your trainer.
That's awesome.
Because I've been down that path and I'm not going to help anyone else go down that path.
For sure.
Hence why I don't prep any athletes for bodybuilding shows or physique shows. It's just not my thing. So right now I'm just working on currently keeping Driven, expand Driven. Driven is relatively new. It's only 2 months old. AC Fit was my old company. That has been in existence since I was 18. So we had a huge rebranding on that company.
Yeah.
And who knows, that we're talking about a second location, closing this one, and being able to help more people being in a more centralized location.
Yeah.
And, my thing is, if I can help someone, like I mentioned earlier, transform their life from the inside out, not from the outside in, then that's what my mission is about.
Love that. Now, in regards to the word driven, why did you and your fiance choose that word? Kind of what's the meaning behind that? Obviously, we all know what driven means, but kind of what's the personal meaning for you and your fiance in choosing that name for your training facility?
I'm gonna take the credit because that was my idea.
Okay, no, that's cool. That's
cool. Modivo was the name of the facility. We made up that word, which stands for Modern Fitness Evolved, and it's cool. It's like Lululemon. It doesn't mean squat. It's just a made-up word. But what I wanted to create was now rebrand the business into something that was primarily mindset. Because in order to change the body, you need to change the mindset. That is the number one reason why most people do fail at not reaching their fitness goals, is because they're trying to reach it from a physical body standpoint, not from a mental standpoint. And if you really, really want to change your life, you have to start with a mental aspect of it. And so I wanted to find a word that would inspire people to want to make that change. And, in order to change, you have to be driven. You have to be inspired. I'm not going to call it inspired fitness. That just sounds so cheesy.
Right.
So I wanted one simple word that would, sum up your state of mind in order to change, which is driven. People are driven to change. I don't like the word motivation, man. You know, it's way too used. It's a state of mind. You cannot control a state of mind 24/7. If I could be happy 24/7 without drugs, hell yeah, I do it. You know?
Right.
Sadness, anxiety, depression, happiness, motivation, they're all state of minds. You can switch within a second. And so people always come here, I'm not motivated, and I tell them you're not supposed to be motivated 24/7. You can feel motivated for 15 seconds and use that to take an action. But what your mindset really needs to understand is that whether you are motivated or not, you have to take action despite whatever you're feeling. Don't get me wrong, like I can talk and give my clients and you guys all this inspirational quote unquote talk, but I'll be on the parking lot of a gym some days 15 minutes trying to motivate myself into wanting to step into that gym. I'll be the guy who spends 15 minutes snoozing the alarm clock. I am not some evangelical being that was sent to be a robot back from the future. No, just kidding. To be perfect. There is no such thing as perfect.
Amen. Yeah.
But I'm human. I snooze. I sit in the car. I motivate myself. I talk myself into it. Those are the days that, I've had enough, but I still need to give more.
For sure.
And that's what separates the people who want it and the people who think they want it.
Now, I just want to, and we've been going for an hour and 5 minutes, so I want to kind of start heading towards the finish line. But the mindset thing, where did you, and I'm sure probably maybe, in your competing days, but where did you really realize that mindset in life is the separator for you personally, Alex?
Look, I'm not going to lie, the divorce was pretty rough on me. I had a really bad time dealing with that. I wasn't expecting that in my life. I assumed that person was going to be with me for the rest of my life. And it was that dark time that I said, I have the option of going into a fetal position and staying in bed all day. I have the finances to do this for a few months. Or I can get my ass back in the gym and keep moving forward, right?
Yeah.
I was 23 when I thought about that. Obviously, I had a lot of help from other people who had been divorced and had told me that with time, things are going to get better. I took that mindset to the extreme, though. So I used it negatively, meaning I would be in the gym 3 times a day for maybe an hour and a half every time. I used the move forward a little bit too much. Obviously, through 7 years or so, 6 years or so, I toned it down a little bit.
Right.
The super funny thing is sometimes I miss it. Sometimes I miss being so obsessed about something because that's what you need in order to have a business succeed.
Right.
You can't just want it. You have to be obsessed with it because when you run a business, you are the business. It doesn't shut down. People still email you after hours. People call you after hours. You have to think about the business 24/7. You don't have the boss because you are the boss. So people have this idea, if I'm self-employed, it's going to be glorious. I'm going to make my own schedule. No one's going to bug me. Yeah, that doesn't quite work that way. So I took that extreme mindset of motivation and mindset to change my life. And then I had to tone it down a little bit because that was a huge unbalance in my life. Every single relationship that I had after my divorce had problems because I was too obsessed and too quote-unquote motivated with what I did. And so I just had to find a balance. But I understood the mindset was that changed people because I've trained people now for 13 years. And I can tell, honestly, from the first week working with them, they're going to succeed. Or these are going to be the people who are going to be emailing me and texting me that the quote-unquote program doesn't work, even though the program is themselves. It's not me. And I give precise instructions from day one in my consult that there is no magic trainer, there is no magic pill, there's no magic program. The magic comes within them with the actions that they choose on a daily basis in order to reach their goals faster or push them farther from their destination.
Right.
That's what it is, The other thing I'm currently developing for myself is a me list. And what I mean with a me list is what are the things that I want to do on a daily basis that will make my day feel achieved. So I can tell you an easy one, which is waking up early, doing my cardio, drinking my water, and getting a workout. After that, I have to listen to, like I mentioned, 1 TED Talk every day, and I have to read half a chapter to 1 chapter every single day in order to self-fulfill my need of the best version of myself.
Right.
Some people might see that as it's a little bit too much, because if I fail, then I'll be harsh on myself, which I am. But I want my standards in life to be high.
Absolutely.
Because that's what separates, the people who are normal from the people who are extra normal from the people who are extraordinary.
Absolutely. Okay, so Alex, we're gonna kind of just finish up here. One thing I do want to ask you about, is your fiance, and what you've dated a lot of girls. Kind of, you already talked about all the type of girls that you dated, kind of like a man's or a young boy's dream or whatever. But what is it about your fiance that you really appreciate about her, and what has she really added to your life to where it's like, you know what, I want to be with this woman the rest of my life, as opposed to kind of going through all these different flings and everything that you had in the past. What's different about your fiance from maybe past relationships?
How much is she paying you for that?
I've never met her, but hopefully she'll pay me a lot. That'd be great.
Well, let's be honest. Have you seen the dating scene?
It's interesting. It's interesting.
Here's the truth. She put things in perspective. She keeps me balanced. She is who she is around me all times. I am goofy. She is goofy in her own way. She is real. I am real with her all the time. And I think the thing that I adore most about her is that she also has that drive to be better. I have had to track her back to tell her, hey, you need balance, because this business truly is her vision, the gym.
Right.
And she has gone down that path where I have gone, where you become so obsessed that the unbalance of relationship happens. So I've had to talk to her about that so that it wouldn't affect our relationship, because like any relationship, it goes up and down, up and down.
Of course.
But she's just real. She is not afraid to be who she is around me, and she's just silly. She enjoys the lifestyle. That's really important to me. Someone needs to take care of themselves. But that's it, man. She's just always real with who she is, and she doesn't pretend to be someone she's not. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people she meets come up to me later and like, dude, why is your fiance so angry, or why has she got the resting bitch face? And I'm like, because you got to earn her trust.
Yeah.
She's not going to give you her trust. She's had, just like everyone else, trust issues, except she doesn't forget. So you want her to smile and be funny, then be good to me. Be good to her, be legit about it, and you'll earn her respect, which that's what I tell everyone. You'll always get 100% of my respect when I meet you. That level might go down depending on your actions around me, and if they go down enough below 50% that I have to question what your actions are going to be around me, then I don't want you around my life.
For sure.
And she's very compatible with that.
Cool.
I think the other thing I really, really like about her is that she is extremely money driven, like me.
There you go.
We're both very money driven. We want more. Some people are going to say that's a very bad thing to look for. I'm like, you know what? My life, man. I live my life on my own conditions. I'm happy, and I just want to be better. And what drives me the most, man, is not even the money. It's just the success of the business. As the business grows, you see the numbers growing. That's just super fun, man.
Absolutely.
Money is great. It's just another resource, another tool to be better.
Absolutely, for sure.
But the business growing, that's the coolest thing ever. If anyone has a chance of owning their business, they'll know what I mean.
Yeah. And as you're because of the type of business that you're in, as the business grows, the positive impact that you're able to have on people's lives is growing too, right?
Correct, and that's what we do at Driven is, I did a little bit of research in the state of Colorado to see who was offering the kind of service that I was offering, and I said, no one is doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to share it here. Come here and learn it from me.
For sure, yeah.
But I am doing something different that most people don't, as far as providing an entire system for the client to succeed.
Cool.
I've also been helping a lot of personal trainers bring their A game, and I'm not charging that. Maybe I was thinking about down the line building a business.
Yeah.
Of helping trainers, but I've helped so many trainers understand that personal training isn't just training the client. It's marketing, it's sales, it's psychology, it's human behavior, and then the training aspect, So I've had tons of trainers message me like, hey, dude, I can't bring my business. I can't get leads. What's going on? Number one question is, how much have you invested in yourself? And they're like, well, I got a certification. I'm like, dude, that's just the key to the door that you have to enter.
Right, yeah.
There's so much more you have to do and learn and, talk to people. And if the moment that people start feeling that you're trying to sell them on something, you're not trying to solve their problem, you're going to lose that client.
For
And
sure.
that's a big problem. Trainers
Absolutely.
are so worried about how many clients are I'm going to have, how much money I'm going to make. Dude, personal training is about helping, not enjoying working out, because that's a big problem. A lot of people tell me, I want to be a trainer. I'm like, why? Well, I love working out. That has nothing to do with being a trainer.
Right.
You know? And two, are you truly, out there to help people? If you're not, forget about this industry, because it's a tough industry. And, in the top 10 professions that people make the most amount of money, personal training is definitely not there.
For sure. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Cool, man. All right. So, last question that I have for you, Alex, is what lights you up? You can maybe also word it. What excites you? What gets you fired up?
just being better.
Being better? Cool.
This me list that I've started creating for myself has gotten me back on track. I am very harsh on myself, but if I don't do that, no one else is going to do it for me. And it just makes me a better version every day. Yeah, I explain it as software. We update. We're told by the companies, like Apple sends you a software, like you have to update this software because your hardware needs to operate better.
Yeah.
And we click and we download it, and sometimes it gives us more problem, which is the exact same thing in life.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I'm forcing myself to upgrade my software every day so that my hardware can be better and function better. It can be, like I said, if you're not mentally ready for that, you are going to beat yourself down to it. If for any reason that is, I don't read my chapter, I don't do my yoga, all I say, tomorrow's another day, I'm going to get shit done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to beat myself up for it and not do it for the rest of the week because I got one little rock in my shoe. Cool.
So, Alex, I just want to thank you personally for taking time out of your schedule to share your story. And I mentioned this to you before we turned on the podcast, but all I did was send you a DM on Instagram, and you were very kind. You responded quickly. I think I reached out to you maybe Saturday, Sunday. Here we are Monday, having the podcast. So I just want to thank you again for sharing your story. Thank you for being real. Thank you for being humble. Thank you for getting back to me. It's just cool, man, when you can meet somebody through social media, then you meet them in person and they're the same person. So thank you for that. If anybody on the podcast that's listening has resonated with your story, if they want to find out more about your training services, all of that type of stuff, where can people find out more about Driven, find out more about you, Alex?
Oh, all they can do is go to alexcarneiro.com, or they can just simply go to my Instagram.
Perfect. Awesome. So listeners, I just want to thank you again for tuning in to the 127 Fit podcast. Your listening ears are always greatly appreciated. If you want to find out more about myself and the guests that I'm bringing on to the 127 Fit podcast, you can find that information on Instagram. It's at 127Fit. Facebook is at Quentin Vars. I'm also Quentin Vars on LinkedIn. If you guys would do a huge favor and please leave a 5-star rating and review, and also subscribe to the podcast, that would be greatly appreciated as well. If you think you would be a great guest, or if you have a friend or an acquaintance you think would be a great guest or guest for the 127 Fit podcast, you can just send me an email or give this email out. That email is 127fit@gmail.com. If you would be interested in sponsoring an episode or upcoming episodes, things of that nature of the 127 Fit podcast, you can also send me an email at 127fit@gmail.com. Also, if you guys are interested outside of sponsorship, in regards to supporting financially the 127 Fit podcast, you can go to my Instagram handle, again, at 127 Fit. Go to the bio, and you can see where you can become a patron and financially support the podcast. As you're finding great value in an episode or episodes of the 127 Fit podcast, if you would just share that episode or episodes on your Facebook and Instagram stories using the hashtag be someone to follow, that would be cool. And then per the usual, I will leave you with Proverbs 24:10, which states, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. This time until next time, I will catch you guys later.